This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. We've not spoken for 3 weeks, mate. How's this going to go?
How's it, man? You must have been enjoying that lack of Harry in your diet, and you were traipsing all around Japan, which is fantastic. I went. So Japan is an interesting country. 100,000 people in Japan have now reached 100 years or more, and that sets up what's going on in my life right now, which is my mom, my dear old mom, is just fighting fit. Looks about like my age, and she's 90. Nice. She's the toughest person I've ever met. She is not a complainer in any way, shape, or form. I saw her burn her hands on the stove when I was a young boy, and then she just went, and she carried on, and it was a bad burn. All my toughness, all my fight, all my belligerence and resilience, and all that vinegar I've got is from my mom. She's just indomitable. If she got kidnapped within 2 minutes, those kidnappers would let her out and say, no, we cannot handle you. So yeah, happy birthday, Mom. To reach 90 is amazing, and catch the Japanese, get to 100.
Yeah, happy birthday to Harry's mum. Was that an early cheers?
No, I got plenty of cheers.
Oh, you got more.
It was just my observation. It's a great coach in basketball in U.S. colleges, Mike Krzyzewski. Don't try to spell that name and think it's going to be Krzyzewski because it starts with a K. But he introduces all of his player camps every year, and he says, "I want you to be as tough as your mothers." And almost without fail, that resonates with those 19-year-old boys from wherever they come from nowadays. They go,
like that.
Yeah, that was the toughest person in my life, because our mothers tend to be that.
That's true. Let's then move on from pre-cheers to actual cheers. What are you then giving cheers to around the rugby world this weekend?
My cheers is to a Sydney, Australia group called the Ticket Tech Entertainment Group, the TEG Sport, who has approved me for the Soldier Field rematch between the All Blacks and Ireland. It's run by the accreditation process is run by an Australian firm, of all things.
Really?
It's an Ireland home game set in Chicago at Soldier Field. Presumably,
and the ticketing is done by Ticket Tech in Australia.
The accreditation, all the media is TEG Sport, and so. Like, what's interesting about this is it's Ireland's home game set in Chicago. Yep. It'll definitely be much more green than black. But presumably also the points on offer in World Rugby rankings would mysteriously and weirdly and almost tone-deafedly factor as if it's an actual home game, which is bizarre to me. That's why the Harry Index is always better in these things, because that's really silly to think that there's a home, an actual home advantage to travel over.
That will be the same case in London on Saturday afternoon when South Africa hosts Japan at Wembley.
But it doesn't mean anything. Whereas the rankings between All Blacks and New Zealand are actually pivotal.
Yes, I take your point.
Actually bizarre, because a lot of the URC-based players are having to travel from Johannesburg all the way to Chicago,
America,
for their home game.
Yes,
exactly.
Yes. That's interesting. Ticket Tech in Australia are a massive ticketing behemoth. Not unlike, I think, Live Nation in the States has been built around the Ticket Tech model.
It's great for me because then it helps me overcome the fact that Rugby Australia didn't allow me to be a journalist for the Lions tour.
Well, it might not.
TEG has accepted me.
Hold that thought, though, because TEG Sport were also responsible for Super Round in Melbourne, and that didn't quite go so well. So,
Well, this is guaranteed to go well because it's an anniversary of a game that means so much to Ireland, and it's in the Kiwi mindset that you and I both know so well. They have to bring a reckoning to that. There must be an erasure. They must win in Soldier Field.
Response. Yes. And if that doesn't happen, that will be an interesting fallout. It will. It's our first shot of that top level, the top four. It's the first shot of who's slipping, who's going up. And I know Razor likes to play against Ireland and did very well a year ago. Very well. That was probably the best
That might have been one of the best matches of Razor's tenure so far, was when they went to Dublin and just controlled the game. I actually think they're going to do a lot more grinding, forward play, and try to roll over Ireland. I don't think there's going to be a lot of fancy stuff in the first 25 minutes.
No, I think you're probably right. We will definitely get on to the November tests a little later on. I'm giving cheers to you to Japanese rugby crowds, who are just the most polite bunch of tens of thousands of people that you can possibly run into. Everything's all very, very polite. It's very easy to get into the National Stadium on Saturday for the Japan Australia game. They chanted on cue. They didn't really respond spontaneously unless Michael Leach had the ball first and foremost. And then the second half, when they actually started playing a bit of rugby off turnover. Until that happened, though, only other time I think I can actually recall them responding with appreciation about something was early in the first half, when Australia had like 30 odd phases over the course of 3 penalties, and their line defense just held, and the crowd actually started getting into that, going, how good's this? So, but the whole orchestrated cheering just amused me all afternoon in what was horrible weather. I've got to say, it was like we were dressed for the rugby in Canberra. That's how cold and wet it was.
Do Japanese fans stay quiet during the kicks?
Yes, and up on the respect the kicker, the whole thing. Yep.
What about post-match? Do they hang around or not?
Yes, because the Japanese team gathered on about the 22 at each end, and did their, group bow to the crowd as well. So there was a bit of that. They definitely hung around and waited till both coaches spoke. And then sort of almost lastly, there was a bit of a presentation to the Wallabies for winning the whatever the hell the trophy was. But yeah, the crowd was thinning out by then. So the coaches speaking was like, okay, right, now we can go.
Do lots of them wear the national jersey or something like that on your shirt?
They do, and we'll come back to this.
Okay.
We'll get into that. But yes,
it's interesting that there are fan groups that have been enough around the world now to sort of notice this thing of some fan group. Twickenham would be the most obvious. Well, a very low percentage of people wearing the England jersey or replica, and much more just into their normal, elbow patch garb. And then you have other in Ireland, sort of mid-range, and then there's places you go. Let me think of an example. I think maybe Australia is getting to where
Australia in 2025
with gold.
Really pulled out the gold this year. Yes, I agree with that. And yes, the Japanese just love bringing out the hoop. So we'll absolutely get onto that. We have got a really interesting, great rugby chat, and amongst other things, I think. But I think first, mate, please, like you do, tell the nice people why we'd love them to join the now more than 10,000 subscribers to the 8-9 Combo.
Yeah, if you sons of bitches out there can show me a pod in which...
Are we still doing this?
A man has created a replica back when he was a child of what a line-out maul really is. Guys, it's not some horrible pushing thing. It's a floating attack machine where you have an ability to come over the top, and you have 9s and 10s streaking off. You have someone at the back like a Malcolm Marks or Dan Sheehan, who peels off at just the right moment and separates and partitions from that big sliding maul.
It comes apart.
This is varnished. It's been alive since 1975. It is absolutely something that no other pod that features an Australian and a South African 8 and 9 has ever produced. So that's exclusive.
Yes.
And that's the kind of content
that's exclusive on the 8-9 Combo YouTube channel and podcast.
Breaking
obviously,
news.
We present to you schoolboy woodwork as old as one of the co-hosts.
Inspired by my mother. So try to make fun of that, you sons of bitches.
I like that.
Subscribe.
If you are watching us on the YouTube, the red subscribe button down there, and around about 60% of you, I believe, aren't subscribed. So we'd love to see that number come down.
What's the possible explanation for someone who's a regular, who loves it, who doesn't push the button?
That's definitely a chat for another day, but it's not unique to us.
Maybe fear of surveillance or something. We can promise you that that's not happening. We're not.
Google
we are never selling your information.
No, we can't speak for Google, but we definitely don't. And if you're listening via any of the podcast platforms, then like, follow, subscribe as you need to. You know how it all works by now. We are back from an enjoyable break. And so this week we're going to use the pod for a bit of a catch up on rugby. And I suspect other things, right? I'm not sure where this is going now, I must admit.
Well, I mean, we can spend the entire pod talking about the Stormers, who have conceded 4 tries in 5 rounds. In today's rugby, if a team, I don't care who you've played, and they played good teams, if we've conceded 4 tries in 5 rounds, that is just a thing that you have to go tip your hat and say some scramble defense, some motivation is going right. The second thing is some of the stalwarts like Leinster are sort of in the middle of the table. So it's an interesting, I think, an interesting season there. But I think maybe our eyes all turn at this time to the clashes of the hemispheres. And I think our appetite is whet for the idea of comparisons. You know, how far has Joe Schmidt really taken the team? And you could say you could see it in the rugby championship. Well, kind of, but when you have to play the freaking All Blacks and the Springboks and then travel to Argentina, it's a hell of a tournament. What is it? Our friend Ringo always puts it: you go into the tournament, boys, and you emerge a man. But I would like to see Australia settle things with the teams of the North, and not just pull off the one-shot wonder or the miracle at Twickenham. You know, actually do a proper tour. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really interesting to know what is coming over the next 5 weekends, isn't it? So here's a question for you without notice, and I put this on the socials last night, my time. All the initial reporting around, particularly around the Wallaby schedule, was that the Regulation 9 window was the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd weekend of November. Somewhere along the line, that changed to the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th weekend of November. And I'm just curious to know when that happened, because even the World Rugby website and the explanations around how Reg 9 works says very clearly there, unless approved, the weekends will be for November will be the 1st, 2nd, 3rd weekend. So presumably this was approved at some point, but I am buggered if I know when that changed. And it doesn't just affects the Wallabies this weekend against England, obviously, but it also affects other teams. You know, in theory, clubs don't have to release players this weekend, potentially. Now, it's not going to affect South Africa too much because they've got a squad of 85, but theoretically, French clubs, European clubs, Japanese clubs could say, no, we might hold on to them this week.
So I don't know the immediate answer to your actual question of when that change was made. But, Thomas Tutoy is in camp for the Boks, and he cannot play now, even though he was released into the camp by Bath. But now, so sure, that's happening.
Yeah.
Let's just say this. One of the worst things about rugby is this exact thing. This very strange, patchworky, and I mean, we can have pods and pods and pods, which I would never want to do, about the disorganization of rugby and the fact that if we went back in time and read things in 20 years ago, what we wished we would get right, we're still got the same list, a global calendar, an actual, lined up thing that makes sense, much more pressure and force of the clubs to do what is right. Unless we want to just become a club, centric game. And so it just does my head in. But here's the thing. I still love the fact that among all the things that make this November test series so cool, one is that the rankings, which will determine everything in terms of where you slot in the Australian World Cup coming in 2 years, happens during this month. The actual drawing is in the first week of December. So whatever you got to do right now, whether that's unfair or fair about this player and Regulation 9, it's going to happen right here. Let me tell you, it's very important for some of the teams around there, 4 to 5, 3 to 6,
6 to 7.
It's absolutely crucial not to be in certain groups.
Yeah, Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what is fascinating about these November tests. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to get into the test straight away, or do you want to inquire about my holiday to some degree?
Yeah,
what do you want to do?
Tell me and the audience more about Japan. So give me what's the broad strokes. Which cities did you actually spend time in?
We did. We flew into Tokyo, a couple of days there, couple of days down Kyoto, couple of days in Osaka, couple of days back in Tokyo, coinciding with the test. So,
are those long trips or not? Is that just a train?
It's a bullet train. Tokyo down to Kyoto was about a bit over 2 hours. Osaka back to Tokyo was about 2.5. And that's interesting in itself because it's a not insignificant distance. It's nearly 500 k. It would be 500 k's from Osaka to Japan, and we did the trip in 2.5 hours. So
does it make you want to have one of those for Canberra?
Oh, absolutely, Canberra, absolutely. So I actually calculated it for Tokyo to Kyoto. We did it in 132 minutes, which meant that we averaged 216 kilometers an hour, and we stopped 4 times. So we averaged 214 k's an hour.
So it top speed was what, 400?
No, it can. The one we were on could do 270, 280. I don't think it got that high, and it doesn't actually display it.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anything on my phone that actually allowed me to track speed.
It's kind of hard to see out of the window at some speeds. You kind of had that weird kind of vertigo feeling.
The funniest part was is that you're belting along, and it you're going fast, but the everything at the window just sort of moves at normal speed like you're driving a car. But when you crossed with another Shinkansen going the other direction, the turbulence off it actually rattles you, so you can actually hear it.
Yeah.
So, and when you've got 2 trains doing 200 k's in opposite directions, and they only passing, I don't know, it's maybe a meter. Yeah, there was a bit of turbulence off that into each one.
It's a very civilized, pleasant way to travel, actually.
Great place.
Great. In terms of what you ingested on the trip, take me through sort of your best meal in Japan that you and the family enjoyed.
We tried everything. We went in very, very open-minded. So I'll tell you one thing: we probably won't be rushing back to rice this week because we've eaten a lot of rice in the last 2 weeks. And my wife comes from rice growing territory in southwestern New South Wales. So yeah, we've eaten a lot of. We did everything. We did sushi. We did sashimi. We did teriyaki, we did teppanyaki, we did wagyu stuff. The best part of it, I reckon, was yes, you'd find great restaurants and great eating places, but you'd also find, particularly in sort of away from the CBD, you'd find these little restaurants, and they're essentially the front of someone's house. And you just sort of go in, and there's maybe 2 tables, or there's a big bar. And we went to a ramen place back in Tokyo, second time back in Tokyo, and it was very much the front of someone's house. Husband and wife very much organizing it, and it's just just a round bar. You're sitting there looking at the kitchen. You hand over your ticket when you order it. 5 minutes later, here you go. Here's your meal. I was like,
nice.
Okay, this was cool, and just everything was just so great. It was really, really good.
Do they automatically speak to you in English, or do you have to have a sort of an entry in Japanese?
We could walk in and say hello, how are you? And it was all very polite. We got very used to saying arigato gozaimasu as we were leaving, so that was easy. And I picked up I've got to think about it now. Sumimasen, I think, which is excuse me. My daughter has been studying Japanese for a couple of years, so she sort of had a few little things here and there, and a few times we're trying to work out what something meant when there wasn't English, and she'd go, no, that means that, because I recognize those 3 characters. Cool. So that was handy.
Good for the brain.
But otherwise, between Google Translate on our phones and Google Maps to work out we need to go from here to here, what's our best options? Here's 10 different options: walking, bus, taxi, train. Okay, train, good. Tell me, train, there's these 3 options. This one here is leaving at this time. It's on this platform. It's also scheduled for these other 3 times. And there was live tracking. Trains you knew exactly when it was on time, how far away it was, where it was on the line.
Yeah.
Getting around is just so easy. It really was. And it was just cool. We just really, really enjoyed it.
Japan's always been a mystical place. I just was reading a book this week, and it was called Death Poems, Japanese death poems. And it was about these Zen monks that were on the verge of death, and they would write a haiku. And some of them were pretty cool. But the idea that they can express a lot in a small amount, the idea that it's a quiet culture, community, and the fact that they look out for each other, and that, you know, a small girl can just walk to school and it's really normal to do that.
We saw that on the I'm trying to think where we were now. It might have even been the Shinkansen Osaka back to Tokyo. There was tell a lie. It was a different subway train, but we were on it for maybe half an hour. And there was this group of school kids, and they wouldn't have been much older than 7 or 8. And they all got on as a group, about 9 or 10, and they're just standing on the train laughing and smiling and having a great time. And then selectively 2 would get off here, and then 2 more would get off here. And it's like they've just come to school on a train across the city, and no one thought anything of it.
It's how we all grew up. Or how I grew up.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom, can I tell you, going to go up the Wild Coast on a bike with some friends for 2 weeks. You know, I've got the equivalent of $20. And my mom was like, sure, fine, good. Just every now and then call us, but, you know, hang up before we answer so we know it's you. And I was like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Elephants, derelicts, sleep on the beach. Yeah.
It was
so
really
would you go back? Would you return to Japan?
Yep, definitely would. No, it was just like, it was really easy. The exchange rate with the Australian dollar is basically 1 for 1 now. So it was interesting to see where the bargains were and where things were made more expensive. So food was about the same. Coffee was about the same, but things like soft drink, a bottle of Coke out of a vending machine or even at a convenience store would be like a third of the price of what we'd pay in Australia. And a beer, just one night we'd in convenience stores everywhere. So if there's not a 7-Eleven somewhere, there's a Lawson or there's a Family Mart or there's something else. And next to every fourth one of those would be a Starbucks coffee as well. So coffee in a convenience store, pretty cheap because you're coming from a machine. If you're actually in a coffee shop where there's baristas and all that, I actually reckon it was probably more expensive than Australia. But you'd pick up a beer in a convenience store for $2 for a can of, like 200 yen or $2 Australian for a can of Asahi. That'd be $10 or $12 in Australia on its own.
Well, the good thing about living in Australia and going abroad is that I think Australia is expensive. And so most places you travel to, you feel like you're getting a deal, which is cool. What percentage of the 8-9 Combos travel budget did you squander in your wild abandon?
A good chunk. Yeah, good chunk.
Well done.
Were you going to go to Chicago this weekend? You might not be able to fly back to Dallas. No, a good chunk. But we budgeted very well, so we actually came back with a little bit of yen that we've got to work out what to do with. But it was good. We'd certainly go back. There's no question about that because just such a great place. And then to tie it all in with the rugby on the weekend was just great. And it's funny because I sort of disconnected from all the rugby media and social media. I was in contact with you a little bit and our different chat groups, but I very, very deliberately didn't read too many stories, didn't listen to any podcasts, didn't watch too many YouTube clips, just really disconnected. Equally then didn't really turn on Japanese TV. In fact, the TV in our last room in Tokyo wasn't working. So I never looked at, local Japanese news or anything like that. Certainly couldn't read local Japanese papers. So I didn't really see any promotion of the test match in Tokyo leading into last Sunday at all. And it really wasn't until we got to the ground. And this picture that I've got up in there now was one that I think I sent you and one of our chat groups. That was a big banner on the side of the stadium. And aside from, banners that were in the precinct that we got there on the Friday afternoon to pick up accreditation things, you wouldn't have known there was a test on. A taxi driver who picked us up on Friday afternoon at the train station taking us to a hotel, and we said, "Oh, we're back for the rugby." And he goes, "Oh, there's rugby on this weekend." So not only did he not know there was rugby on, but he didn't know it was Japan playing.
Right.
So it was kind of funny. The stadium itself is really cool. The National Stadium was quite wet. Oh, and that was obvious there. I sent you that picture of me and my my media accreditation there. That's it. Me holding it up on the left. We've said a lot of things. I mean, we've seen some funny. You talk about accreditation process and things like that. That picture of me holding my my pass there. Yes, that is handwriting on the bottom, and not only is it handwriting, it's my own handwriting. So not only did I have to, not only was my pass written, I had to fill in the details. So it was
that's kind of cool though, because it's in a way,
yeah,
it's a perfect handwriting analysis tool to check if you are who you really are. So replicate that. Go now. That's interesting.
It was. So
well, I'm glad you got to go do that and spend time with the family and celebrate some birthdays and so forth. You are a collector of great notes. You always bring something back from where you come.
I have bought something back for you. Well, the Brave Blossoms had this fantastic retro red and white hoop jersey that I saw and thought, oh, that's fantastic, and could not find one in my size anywhere. And I must have looked in 5 different shops all around the ground, was sold out. So I sort of I've made do with this fantastic t-shirt that cool. outlines Japanese Rugby World Cup jerseys over the last few years, which is really cool. But I have got you something which I will send to you at some point in the future.
Okay.
But it's kind of small, so I'm kind of going to have to wait for something else. Can you see that?
Yeah. It's a number 8. Michael
It is. It is. I bought that for you. So
excellent. Thank you.
That's coming your way at some point.
Will fit on my finger.
Until then, we might just sit it up there.
Excellent. Good job.
It is. So
welcome back.
Had a great time. Thank you. Very much enjoyed it. Enjoyed the break. Glad to see that the couple of recap videos and things that we put up did reasonably well. Clearly, I'll note that listening to you and Ringo point out all the ways that you were wrong at Ellis Park, evidently people didn't really want to hear that as much. I don't know why.
There's some pain in our heavily South African audience. There's no, not one more time.
No, exactly.
Let's talk about Wellington.
Exactly right.
No, that's fair.
Yes.
So, as everyone knows, I'm a Cape Townian. I am Western Province Yolekadung. Stormers. I bleed in hoops of blue and white. But there are from time to time, my dreaded rivals, the Bulls from Pretoria.
Yes,
we have common purchase, and it occurs sometimes. And so people have heard about this maybe a little bit, but not maybe all the way. And some people have been living inside this in a sort of a vortex of rage. But what happened was in a match between Connacht and the Bulls in Galway, the 18th minute, a qualified medical doctor who plays blindside, Josh Murphy from St. Michael's, a good boy, prefect type. He makes a tackle, and then he tries to counter ruck from that, and he loses his feet. So he ends up wading through a ruck adorned by 3 or 4 bulls on his knees, straddling people, presumably as he's straddling on his knees and wading through a ruck, his package is coming in contact with various modalities and body parts. But he rises up at the end of that ruck and strikes Jan-Hendrik Wessels, claiming that Jan-Hendrik Wessels grabbed and twisted his nuts. This thing gets litigated, but on the field, the referee doesn't see anything because there is nothing to see, by the way. You can make inferences, piled upon inferences about unnatural body shapes and motions, but there is just nothing you can see. So the striker, Josh Murphy, gets red carded.
Right.
And so then he's seething. He's never been red carded for anything other than a high hit, mistake. This is an actual, you're a bad boy, St. Michael's.
Straight red card or 20 minutes upgraded?
Sit there for 20 minutes and steam over it. You're the good boy. You're the one who never did anything wrong. St. Michael's medical doctor, miraculous that you're a medical doctor and a blindside flank. And he just sits there seething, right? So he comes off, finishes the game, and they lose narrowly, which is also galling. And so then he has to go, the siding commissioner, he decides, here, I'm going to go. He goes in there and he says, For 5 seconds, Jan-Hendrik Wessels grabbed my package and twisted. 5 seconds. The hearing officer, says, "Well, that's a long time, then." So he scales back to 3. Still impossible by looking at the ruck. There's no 3 seconds in which that could have happened. 1
Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. That's a long squeeze.
It's a long time for a front rower from Bloemfontein to have your nuts in his hand, and if he wanted to squeeze it, to also say at the end of that, there were no marks. I need no medical attention. I mean, how weak is Jan-Hendrik's grip strength? And I can tell you right now, he could probably lift a tractor. So.
Can I just record Jeff Park's comment on this on Saturday night post-match? And he said, quite rightly, surely it's too early to tell if there's no lasting effects.
Yeah. Maybe it was engorged or disgorged, or maybe he has no nuts. But anyway, that was something that we were unable to establish in this case because he never produced the evidence which was gripped. And so it launches into this very strange area. And here's where lawyers would tell you, and I'm going to say that, 95% of them will say this. It's a quasi-criminal proceeding. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's not Murphy versus Wessels. That would be civil. It's also not a club per se against Wessels or a club per se against Murphy. It is an overarching governing body
against the URC
that takes away game time. It can ban you. It can fine you. And it then goes onto your record. So the next time around when you face similar punishment, they say, well, he was he did one of the worst things you can do, which is
he's a nut grabber from way back.
But how you establish that? And so people got lost in, but I believe him on the balance of probabilities. That's not really the issue. You could set up any proceeding where you could say, oh, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking he would not have risen up unless something had happened. But is that a really good procedure when you ban for a long time? For me, the longer the ban becomes, in other words, the more serious the charge is, the more proof you want to have around a verbal accusation. Otherwise, it's just too easy to abuse. It's an attractive nuisance. Someone along the line will use it. Stuart Hogg will use it. So I use the Stuart Hogg rule. Would you like the same situation to have happened if known malcontent and shitwad Stuart Hogg rose out of a ruck and he slammed someone and said, well, it's because someone grabbed my nuts. And then the person he's saying that to is from Uruguay, is not really conversant in English in his first language, and is a better shit talker because Murphy clearly out-talked Wessels, who's barely fluent in English, which is an important point here. I mean, he understands English, but he's not someone who uses English on a daily basis all the time to his friends. So these nuances, I think the problem is it's not really satisfactory to say a person comes out of a ruck, which we all know is fraught with all manner of dark deeds, says a thing, does a thing, and we work backwards and go, well, I think no one would ever have punched someone in the field unless there was some really good reason. Guys, there's a ruck before that. There's a tackle before that. There's something you said as you ran next to each other that could make you want to punch someone. There's all kinds of reasons why. And it's a slippery slope, and I think bad precedent. So I think what's going to happen is World Rugby will not use this as precedent. This will become one of those, that was a unicorn. That was weird. Let's not follow that. Let's not go down this road of people coming out of rucks, hitting someone in the face and saying, but it was because he hit me first somewhere that he shouldn't have hit me. It's not a good look for the World Cup to have someone banned for 9 games, the whole cup, because some French guy comes up and has some ancient rivalry with England, decides to settle it there. And so that's what's sitting badly. The appeal was made and denied, except they trimmed off 1 week, but it was a week later, so who cares? And it cuts him out of the November tests.
So Jan-Hendrik Wessels. So this happened all 2 weeks ago, as you say.
Yeah.
And you were sort of, I have to admit, I sort of wasn't able to keep track of all your messages that you were sort of keeping us up to date with. And but the reaction to it has been as you can expect. There's been next to no reaction out of Ireland. There's been heavy criticism out of South African. I don't think I've seen a South African angle for this case that says maybe he shouldn't have put his hand somewhere to provoke.
Yeah, I've seen those. I've seen plenty of this from South Africa, which is I think maybe he did, but I don't like a process going forward that cannot show that and relies purely on
and that's where I was heading. Yes,
and I have several Irish people off the record with long audio saying well, I know Murphy, so I tend to believe him, but I hate this process, and I would hate it applied to a Leinsterman, when something else happens and we're home courted because it's been, old Celtic panels. And it would stink to high heaven, because I'm using is the deciding commissioner was there 20 meters away, is this idea of like, oh, I believe him. He's a good boy. Who's this Wessels guy from deep dark,
who I can't understand.
The stereotypes which I've always heard Pacifica players apply here, which is when the longer you go into denying a working man his wages and his ability to work and feed his family and do what he's trained to do, be very careful before you just, I don't know, throw that away for 9 weeks on a he said, and you say, well, he just said better. He said, he said, Murphy spoke better, Okay, his name is Murphy. He's going to do better in speaking.
Yeah, exactly. So let me try and sum it up and pull up anything that I've maybe not got right here. So Murphy struck Jan-Hendrik Wessels, was red carded, got no further sanction for that, for the strike.
It was reversed. Yeah, they said in the end it was yellow card. The same panel decided that as the panel that decided to censure Wessels, and they claimed that there was
downgraded to a yellow card, right?
And they claimed there was no connection between those two decisions. They were rendered independently in separate universes, but it was the same 3 Welsh panel members. They just swapped chairs who heard it, and obviously the decision to take an actual strike into the head from red to yellow was influenced by the other decision, which was, but he had good reason to, because in no rugby world is punching someone in the open, in the head, the back of the head, not a red. It's a red card.
Yes,
it's a red card. Always.
So Jan-Hendrik Wessels was cited, found guilty with minimal evidence, and certainly no video evidence.
There was evidence, everyone, because they say no evidence. If someone says a thing, that's evidence, right? It's just that we're looking for corroborating.
Yes.
Evidence.
Okay. Yes, that's a better way of putting it. No corroborating evidence. Suspended for 9 weeks.
Yes.
The Bulls appeal. It gets pulled back to 8 weeks, and the URC says it was all completely fair.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And it's to me, it's the slippery slope argument of like, do you really want that to be? It is. I think I can almost see it when it's a smaller decision, but when it's a decision of this gravity, I think you want to see more just to content yourself that there was, maybe a medical evidence or a physical examination, or there was contemporaneous reports to other people. Did those reports match up? I've got the recording, and he says 5 seconds. It's clear as day. He says that. He's a medical doctor. He would know 5 seconds is outlandishly, stupidly wrong. Yes. There's no way. No one's holding your nuts when you're 6'6", 120 kgs. You're on top, and he's got your nuts. You're not letting him have your nuts for 5 seconds.
No,
I mean, you just do a wild push-up, you launch back, and you get free. So that's silly. And I think the fact that he made that makes you think maybe it was trying to get out of the red card and giving himself an alibi for why did I punch someone? And then he gilded the lily, went too far. 5 seconds is a sign of embellishment. And when you embellish a story, just like if you have 2 kids and you're the father, and one's embellishing, that something probably did happen, but you kind of don't want the embellisher to get too much credit for that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, if you're going to tattletale, stay with the facts.
That's fair. It's just that part of me finds it amusing that there's been this long-held opinion from, dare I say, fans of URC clubs that, Super Rugby Judiciary, God, what will they know? Cases like this absolutely show that judicial stupidity is not isolated to one competition at all.
No, that's a worldwide.
But equally, this underlines the fact that it has to be more than just using the World Rugby guidelines for foul play. There has to be something across the board so that those guidelines mean that if you do X, you're going to end up with Y punishment.
Yeah.
It has to be clear. It can't be 3 weeks here and 6 weeks here and 9 weeks here. And it can't be that. And then there's the whole question of, judicial fairness and all that sort of stuff. And we could probably go on about this for
there are holes in the process.
It's just madness that there's so many hairs on this case.
Yeah, there are holes in the process, right? So you have time to do vigorous cross-examination. They don't allow it.
Yeah.
Put me in the Zoom room with Dr. Josh fucking Murphy, and I will rip his story to shreds. I promise you. And make him ashamed of himself, to say 5 seconds.
Yeah.
They don't let us do that. We cannot go at him. So then his story just stands swallowed whole by a citing commissioner his responses were, oh, grand then. Oh, fair then. Oh, fair play then. Oh, grand. That's it then. 3 minutes long. No pushback. I mean, a trained investigator would have actually helped Josh Murphy walk that back and say, and might it have been an accident then?
Yeah.
Yes, I can see that could have been, as I slide with my crotch over many knees and hands, and people are trying to pull this out and that out.
When you
what
say
if the
5
most
seconds,
likely explanation is
one?
that it was just a melee and something did touch you, but you overreacted. Now, if you overreacted, I'm not saying you're the worst person in the world, but chill out. Don't get a guy banned for 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Just maybe take the apology and move on. That would have given Wessels an ability to probably say, okay, maybe I did do that. I'm sorry. I grabbed and let go immediately. So I think that's what's most likely. No marks, no damage, no soreness, no ice pack. It just seemed like it was a momentary thing. It pisses you off. It would me. I'd hit anybody who touches me there. So, okay. I mean, in certain circumstances, it touched me there. So, so I think I think that's the thing is common sense and understanding that rugby is a very weird thing to adjudicate in the terms of assault and contact, because there's just, when you're cleaning someone in a rock, let's be honest, you are grabbing the middle part of their body in some way and trying to violently
clean out. Yeah.
Yes. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things get touched in that situation that you're not really intending to. Jan-Hendrik actually said he was pulling my leg out, which is plausible as well. His leg got trapped. He said, I'm trying to grab my leg and pull it. When you grab stuff and you don't see what you're grabbing, sometimes you grab a wrong package.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Let's talk about some rugby, hey?
What's coming up?
Well, hold that
Everything.
Thought. Everything indeed is coming up. November tests. What are we in for? Tell you what we're in for this November. A shitload of rugby. I've displayed this little graphic before. It's the Autumn Nation Series fixtures for 2025. And there is, without too much embellishment at all, 1,500 games on that piece, on that graphic. That's a lot of games.
There's some really
it's just
ones in there.
It's the very top row that applies this weekend. England v Australia, Scotland v USA, Ireland v New Zealand in Chicago. There's also there's another couple of games. The Barbarians are playing in New Zealand 15 in London. South Africa are playing Japan at Wembley on Saturday afternoon as well. So there's a lot of rugby coming up. What do we? There is a lot at play this November. There really is. As you say, the rankings as of the last weekend of these games is crucial. It's what the 2027 Rugby World Cup pools will be based on.
Yeah, these are always really massive matches, but when it's in the shadow of the draw that comes the first week of December, it is huge. It's so much bigger than normal. There's teams that are right there in the bubble. We'll sort of talk about now the idea of either one of the top 4 teams, maybe the French or the Irish or the All Blacks, slipping and getting into the 5th spot, which would be devastating. There's also this idea of like England, Australia, Argentina in a Hunger Games battle royale.
Yes.
To get one edge ahead and dodge whoever their worst team that they don't like playing is. And doing that kind of projection. And then there's sort of that 7, 8, 9 where you really do want to be in the top 6, by the way. It gives you incredible advantages if you can stay in that 6. So slipping to 7 or 8 is actually devastating.
And that's important because in 2027 we go from 4 pools to 6.
Exactly.
4 pools of 4 to 6 pools.
So being the 7th team, if you emerge from the November test and the 7th team,
second seed in the top against the top team. Yes,
you didn't do your job, and because you have the South going to the North, the whole thing gets a little bit sort of 2 points shifted in favor of the North because you're playing at home and long tours and all that. You could see that in the final weekend. You could have some very weird and maybe horrible permutations on the plate where you go, ooh, I don't want to drop to 9th, or there's ways this can roll down terribly if you're Scotland, for example. And I think also there's a team like Ireland facing Judgment Day here. not as restocked as the other teams, perhaps a little bit not, the speed of James Lowe or the other people coming in is not quite as high. Bundy Aki, Robbie Henshaw. It's a slower looking Ireland. There is a possibility in which Ireland, heavily played in the British Lions, tired, a bit older, could find themselves and uncertain at 10 still. There could be a slide, and it starts this weekend. If they get drummed by the All Blacks, which is always a possibility, every time you go on the field against the All Blacks, they just moor you and they just hurt you, and they do it smiling. And it's a home game. I haven't confirmed that dings you as much as it could. Ireland then goes into a patch where they have to play some serious teams, including the Box, and you could sort of feel their nervousness. On the other hand, you have these cocky English fans saying, "This is our time. We're on the way up. We don't have to play the Box."
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you've mentioned a couple of teams there. Scotland play, as I say, the USA this weekend. Then they've got New Zealand the following weekend. Argentina, that's the middle weekend of November. Ireland have New Zealand this weekend. Japan next. Then Australia. Then South Africa. So there's room for slip up there for Ireland for sure.
Yeah, and one of the teams that you mentioned there, one of the teams that you mentioned that I haven't said anything about is Argentina. And I think Argentina and Australia, these two, the two teams on the bottom half of the Rugby Championship are such
who are currently 6th and 7th.
Bellwethers. A 6 and a 7 team, kind of coming with nothing to lose, but actually do have something to lose. But I could see them surprising some. I think both teams will beat a team they shouldn't beat. That's my prediction.
Yeah. So England are playing 4 tests this November for the first time ever. I think they've only ever generally played 3 tests. So they play Australia, Fiji, New Zealand, Argentina. It's really interesting. So Australia obviously have beaten Japan last weekend. They've got England, Italy, Ireland, France. So there's potential. I mean, we're talking in Australia, we're certainly talking in terms of you'd love to see 3 wins out of those 5 games, so which would mean winning 2 of the next 4.
That's the effect you want. That 3 games
which means
is a huge hurdle, though. It's hard to get there.
So the expectation is they'll beat Italy, but then also one of England, Ireland, or France, which is 3 of the current top 5. Argentina have no one this weekend, but then Wales, Scotland, England.
I like it
to go. So
they could
Argentina,
go 3-0.
Yeah, they could. Argentina have actually got 2 warm-up games. They play Munster this weekend, and then an Argentinian 15 play Bristol the day before the weekend they play Wales. So they'll get some game time into their guys. New Zealand have obviously got Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, so they've got a Grand Slam opportunity. South Africa have got Japan, France, Italy, Ireland, and then they actually play on the last weekend of November against Wales. So there's some fascinating games amongst all that, isn't there?
Yeah, the entire Box season's been premised on 3 tilts. One is win one of those games in New Zealand, and then it was the best win, the biggest win over New Zealand by anyone ever. So you tick that box. Now you move on to that first big game against the French in Paris, but the French are bereft. They've lost a lot of players, and not sure that they're going to have the sort of same quarterfinal of the.
They've got a real injury
factor,
issue, haven't they?
Right, and then you finish out with Ireland and Dublin. If I was to sit here and think, starting the season, I just wanted us to win 3 of those 3 of 3. And the chances of that actually, I think, have increased over time with the depth and to me, a bit of a shakiness in Leinster. Well, I know it's difficult to extrapolate. I get that, but Ireland is very Leinstery. So that's my point there. It's a warning sign for Ireland.
France have South Africa, Fiji, Australia. They're only playing with 3 games.
Yeah, it's the furtherance of the whole narrative of the French not taking tests seriously enough until suddenly they want to, and then cry that they were cheated somewhere. But they don't do the things like a farmer would do: the plowing, the fallow, the watering, the fertilization. They need to take test rugby seriously and send really top teams when they go on tour and make sure that they organize their life around it, trim the top 14 if they have to, from 87 matches to whatever it should be. But I think that's what the French have to do to keep the Johnsons. Because if on paper, that's the team I fear the most in 2027. I mean, I got to tell you, the French depth is insane.
What would be the reaction in France if they lost to South Africa? There's no shame. I mean, they'd be annoyed, obviously, but there's no shame in losing to the number one team.
They have alibis too with the injuries. They just go, well,
of course. Of course. What about if they lost to one of Fiji or Australia?
Well, there's plenty of people that don't like Galtier in France, and they don't like his particular selections. The people from the Bordeaux region think that they're always getting a bit screwed. Not everyone loves who Galtier picks at 10. They think that Jalibert is better than Ntamak in terms of making the backline come alive. I think you'd see a real murmuring, grumbling, maybe this is the time before 27. Like, if we're going to switch, it has to be now.
Is the time. Yes. That's exactly what. Like, that's pitchfork inducing.
Sure. If he survives that, though, there's no way to switch. Like, they won't switch next year. So the dies cost, they will have to go. But I do think there's a scenario where if let's change your hypothetical, and they got a hiding from somebody at home. Absolutely. Then he's on the chopping block.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating, isn't it?
Like, what happened in Wellington to the All Blacks? If that were to happen to the French in Paris at Stade de France, there would be some very tectonic shifts there, because the club coaches are so revered in France above Galtier.
Yeah. Here's a little something that I actually like about this November schedule. Fiji are playing England, France, and Samoa up north. So there'll be 3 fairly meaningful test matches. Japan, though, they've got Australia, South Africa, Ireland, Wales, Georgia. Now, and that was something that Eddie Jones was talking about both pre and post match in Tokyo last weekend, is that they have just got to play more rugby against the top tier nations. They've got to, and I think there is Phil Waugh was and some Rugby Australia delegation was in Japan last week. So there's definitely something afoot there. I think there will be more regular tests between Australia and Japan going forward. And there's a whole other question about, why aren't they playing the Rugby Championship and all that sort of stuff. But there has just got to be more. If Japan are going to mount a case for inclusion into other tournaments, and they've just got to play more. So it's a fascinating November coming up, mate. It really is. It's a really, really fascinating November.
Cannot wait to be in Soldier Field. So anyone who's out there and sees me traipsing around, come say howdy, and let's share a beer or a selfie. It'll be fun.
This is the 8-9 Combo with Brett McKay and Harry Jones, and that was a really good catch-up, mate. Thank you for bringing up to speed on a few things in the last few
weeks. I'm glad
you're
back in rugby. I was worried that you were just going to get rid of us and go to netball or something. I mean, you were like on true rugby vacation. You were like a blackout, like no more rugby. I'm just I'm in convenience stores in Osaka. That's where I am.
Here's a funny story for you. I found a really good little online rugby shop that has a little shop front, but it was a street away from the hotel we were staying at in Japan, in Tokyo. Unfortunately, I didn't discover that fact until after we already left Tokyo for the first time. So when we got back to Tokyo, I had to go up and find it, which meant literally walking past the first hotel we stayed in. So
nice.
Yeah, there you go. Here's a funny little fact for you that I didn't see, and it's not just about rugby. It's actually for all sport. The football's massive the J League is massive in Japan. The Nippon Baseball League is huge over there as well. That wrapped up, I think, as we got there. But I couldn't find sports store, in Australia, we have Rebel Sport where you can go in and buy your local jersey and all that. I couldn't find the Japanese version of that. So I couldn't find anywhere. This little rugby shop that I found had a couple of League One jerseys, but I couldn't find anywhere where you could buy your favorite team's cap or jersey or shirt or whatever. And I thought, that's interesting. That surprised me a bit. Every now and again, you'd run into somewhere you could find the Japan national football team. And I found a few rugby jerseys later in the trip, but that was it.
That is surprising. If you read Japanese novels, as I do, you see that rugby plays a prominent part in the social fabric of the, let's say, middle class, upper middle of Japan. So it's very common for people to play the sport. It's almost de rigueur in universities. And I always thought of Japan as a highly commercialized entity. And then the World Cup was so well run and they did make a lot of money from it. It does surprise me. It kind of makes me think that they're squandering a bit, and they should probably push that out some. And I think that's a lesson for all the rugby nations is we have to get more serious about the money side of things. We cannot just bemoan prices, bitch at private equity capital, but then also want all the things that both of those two things support and then want it all. So, I think in some ways Japan is well suited because of its economic power to show us.
And because of its corporate support base.
Ways to do it. Yeah, there's a way for us to do private partnerships and all this. And I think
been
Japan's
showing
so
it
good
for
at
years. Yes.
We just need to learn from it and then take that same sort of template and then put it into rugby mad places like Wales that's suffering so much and see if they could revive it. It would be interesting if, because Japan was known for sort of copying technologies that had not been inside it because it was so insular and then catching up and surpassing. It'd be interesting if there was a reverse story here where Japan teaches Wales how to make rugby profitable. That'd be a very cool story.
What's the Welsh equivalent of Suntory and Toshiba? Yeah, that's an interesting
Probably
question.
None. That's the problem.
I don't know. So Games of the Week is back, but it's obviously just the November test this weekend. So Barbarians v New Zealand 15 in London on Saturday. There are if you're a rugby fan, if you're a neutral rugby fan in London on Saturday afternoon, you can go and see the Barbarians in a New Zealand 15. That's about midday kicking off. England and Australia at Twickenham is about 2:00. South Africa and Japan at Wembley is at 3:00. Talk about spoiler for choice.
Which one of those games is going to have the largest crowd?
Well, Twickenham, I'm led to believe, is close to sold out. So is Twickenham or Wembley bigger? I don't know. I don't know that. Twickenham's bigger.
Yeah.
Might be close.
I think Wembley's 60,000 and I think Twickenham.
Okay. Yeah, Twickenham's 80. Yeah, right.
82,
Yeah.
Cool.
Scotland, USA at Murrayfield, and then obviously Ireland v New Zealand at Soldier Field in Chicago, which is going to be a fantastic game. The Premiership and the IRC are now on hold until the last weekend of November. It's round 9 of the top 14 already. How the hell is that? How have they played 9? Have they played 8 rounds already? That I don't understand.
Let's fucking go, guys. This is Test rugby. Let's get it.
Yeah. Well, here you go. There's a 1v2 derby already. Toulouse hosting Stade Francais on Saturday night.
I just cannot pay attention to that until we get through these Novembers. These Novembers to me are I love them. I always love them.
Yep.
It takes nothing for me to love rugby, but these are really special. There's just so many coaching narratives of longtime coaches, embedded coaches with a few up and comers that I just love. I love to see game plans come unstuck. I love to see whatever, a guy like Contepomi can come up with. He's just brilliant sometimes. And then you have guys like Townsend just hanging around. There's Tooney still. So, love it.
Yeah. It's a good question. That then, mate, I think is another great episode of the 8-9 Combo Rugby Podcast behind us. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for allowing us a short break. It was very welcome and very much enjoyed. Tell us what you think about anything we've talked about tonight. The scene in Japan, what sites maybe I missed, the Jan-Hendrik Wessels case. We'd love to hear your thoughts on, and then obviously the November test. We'd love to see what you think there, see where you think the upsets are going to come, what's going to be the surprise results. We'd love to hear from you. You can follow Harry and I on the socials. You can find the 8-9 Combo on the socials as well. And we actually had a little bit of a spike in the socials in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So that's fantastic. Obviously, have your say right here on the 8-9 YouTube channel as well. Shares, ratings, reviews, all of that as well. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby pass you already have. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears post-match at some point this weekend.
Come play with us.
Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team Combo go in again.